Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I have a special guest with me. We're going to talk about Arsenal and the impact Mikel Arteta has had at Arsenal since his appointment. First, I will let my guest introduce himself.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. My name is Zach Lowy, and I am the co-creator of Breaking the Lines. You can find me on ZACHLOWY on Twitter, as well as BTL Vid for Breaking the Lines' articles and analysis.
Yeah, so I knew Zach I know you for about 2 years, I guess, more than 2 years. I started writing for Breaking the Lines in early 2018, I guess, even though I haven't written any articles for about a while. But it's a great site, and the projects that you guys are doing there is really cool. And also, I was part of a video you made for Messi's 31st birthday. That was really cool. And first of all, I would like to say thank you for that opportunity, and also thank you for being a guest today. So, what can you remember, or what can you tell us about the initial stages of Arteta's appointment and the way Unai Emery left Arsenal?
Yeah, well, it was a very topsy-turvy season for Arsenal. Unai Emery was kept on after Arsenal blew the top four race last in 2019, as well as losing in the Europa League final. Some people disagreed with that, some people didn't, but he was kept on, and then he was fired in November, I believe, after losing to Eintracht Frankfurt in the Europa League, which I definitely think has been justified as a decision since that moment. We brought in Freddie Ljungberg as the interim coach, and then they eventually pried away Mikel Arteta. And I have to say, Arteta has looked very good in his opening few months. Definitely a lot of reasons for Arsenal fans to be optimistic. In fact, I think you can almost see some signs, some similarities between Arteta's first few months at Arsenal as well as and Jurgen Klopp's first few months at Liverpool. Definitely some similarities to there. Arteta has already broken the trophy drought.
Yeah.
For Arsenal, it took only a few months, which definitely speaks to his ability as a manager. And yeah, I think that what we saw over the first few months of his time at Arsenal was, the ability to organize the defense, to improve players who had been sort of cast away as rejects or, just not good enough. We've seen a lot of players such as Granit Xhaka, Dani Ceballos, even Alexander Lacazette, players who were kind of left for dead, considered to be not part of the project, and just have their form really turn around under Arteta, which I definitely think speaks to his ability, not only as a manager in getting the best out of his players, but also as a player motivator. The ability to get everybody on the same page and to really develop certain players. So I think in terms of the business that Arsenal have done so far, as well as what we've seen on the pitch during Arteta's first few months, there's definitely a lot of reasons to be optimistic about this Arsenal team.
Yeah, there were initially, when Arsene Wenger left, Arteta was being linked with the Arsenal job, and some people were very excited to see him take over Arsenal following Wenger's departure in 2018, but they didn't give him the job. The Arsenal board kind of decided to go with the safe option with Unai Emery. He had experiences in Valencia, Sevilla, and PSG, of course, but eventually they came back to Arteta. And so why do you think was Arteta a realistic or an ideal appointment for Arsenal when there were so many options who were a lot safer and maybe more experienced than him? What was the big factor in Arteta's appointment?
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, they definitely should have appointed Arteta in 2018 when they had the chance instead of appointing Unai Emery. I definitely think there are a lot of factors behind why they chose Arteta. For one, he knows the club well. He's been a captain at not only Arsenal, but I believe Everton as well. So he has sort of an experience with leadership, with taking leadership roles and, leading players when he himself was a player. So I think that, not only having the experience as an Arsenal player, but also having experience as a captain definitely counts for something. Apart from that, I think just the experience really to learn under somebody like Pep Guardiola, definitely something that is an incredibly valuable experience. And you can learn just as much being an assistant coach on the sidelines, working with one of the top managers in football, as you can, taking a job in La Liga, coaching a team such as, I don't know, Levante or Celta Vigo. So I think that there was definitely an element of risk, but also an element of high reward. I mean, and I think that there are definitely some things that he needs to work on. He's still a rookie manager, but some very promising signs. I think we've seen an ability to mold his team based on the opposition. His ability to get players into certain roles. I think overall, though, the one thing that's been most impressive for me is really the ability to organize defense. And, this is an Arsenal team with a lot of players such as, Bellerin, who hasn't been at his best since coming back from injury. William Saliba spending the past season at Saint Etienne. Gabriel Magalhaes still hasn't played an Arsenal game yet. Pablo Mari was only played a few minutes for Arsenal before getting injured. So you have to remember that he still has a lot of players yet to come back into top form. So definitely something to be excited about if you're an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, I think the appointment of Pep Guardiola by Barcelona back in 2008 kind of influenced how managers were appointed, because I read some article where during the FA Cup semi-finals that the appointments of the likes of Frank Lampard or Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or even Mikel Arteta were in some way similar to how Pep Guardiola was appointed in Barcelona, because he was the coach of the reserve team or the second team who played in the fourth division, I believe, and they gave him a chance. They believed in him, and we all know what an amazing job he did there. So the clubs started believing in previously less experienced players, but players that identified with the club. So I think that was a big factor in his appointment. Even the manager you mentioned or you likened to Arteta, Jurgen Klopp, started off as a 33-year-old center back who was just put out on as a manager when Mainz were going through a difficult time. So I think there has been a shift in how managers are being viewed. And when we come to Arteta, the manager himself, what kind of manager do you think he is, or how do you describe him, like tactically, and how he manages his players? Who do you think had the most influence on him? Pep Guardiola, or maybe Arsene Wenger, or some other manager? Maybe you can draw similarities to. You already mentioned Klopp, I know, but other things you can mention regarding that.
Yeah, it's hard to define Arteta as a manager. I would say he's been sort of maybe a combination of Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho. I think I see a bit of both those managers in him. I don't really see Wenger in Arteta. Maybe in terms of man management, but I don't think we've really seen much of Wenger yet. I actually would say that Frank Lampard, probably has more similarities in his managerial approach than than Arteta does. I don't really see what I don't see many similarities, I guess, between Wenger and Arteta in terms of their managerial approach. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard to make those kinds of judgments when he's only been managing for really only half a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess if I had to pick two managers, I would probably say I would probably go with Guardiola and Mourinho. Yeah, and yeah, it's hard to say which one he has more similarities to. But yeah, I would say probably either of those two.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to judge a manager based on half a season, but what we can say for certain is the fact that Mikel Arteta is a very tactically astute manager because we have seen him change games and approach games differently and being tactically flexible. And most of the criticisms we've heard regarding the likes of Solskjaer and Lampard was the fact that they weren't tactically good enough to manage the clubs they're managing now. But I don't think that
Right.
question can be raised regarding Arteta because we can see him bring the best out of the players that are available to him. And despite some individual mistakes, David Luiz being the obvious one, they still managed to win a trophy. They will be playing in Europe, and they won the Community Shield by beating Liverpool on penalties. And I don't know how valuable a Community Shield win will be, but still winning a trophy is still important for their confidence. And looking ahead, we're about, I think, 10 days away or something like that from the restart of the new Premier League season. And Arsenal have been heavily involved in the transfer market. They already signed Cedric during the January transfer window, like you mentioned earlier. Also, they signed Paolo Mari, who was unfortunately injured during the game against Manchester City. And recently, they signed Willian from Chelsea, and they signed Gabriel, right? Gabriel from Lille, and Saliba is coming back too. So, what can you say regarding this transfers? I know you watch different leagues, and I know you do
Yeah,
this
I
amazing
mean,
threads on Twitter.
I
So,
think that the
yeah,
Gabriel Magalhaes move is really good. I mean, I think it's a really fair price for a player who just has all the makings of a modern center back. The sample size is somewhat small, but the fact is he played for, and he would have played for a full season if the Ligue 1 season wasn't, truncated. And so, I mean, we've seen him for basically over the course of a full season, given the fact that he started. He broke into Leo's lineup in like March or April of last year. So I think there's enough games to make a fair assessment of him. I think that, in terms of his style, I think that there's just definitely a lot to like from him. I think that I think that he's a player who can either fill a role as in a back three or a back four, and aside from that, I think that he would be just a perfect partner for William Saliba going forward. So I think that definitely a lot to like
do you
in
think
terms of his
Arteta
fit.
would be a back
Yeah.
four? Hey, can you hear me? Yeah.
The midfield to play. So I think right now 3-4-3 is probably more likely. Yeah, he did a good job of just all right.
Okay. I lost you there for a bit. I didn't hear what you said.
Okay.
Can you repeat the last part? Sorry.
So I think that Gabriel, I think that one thing.
So what do you think is a realistic target for Arsenal for next season with these players? Okay.
Realistically, I think that top 4 should probably be the aim.
Okay.
Top 4, top 6. I think top 4 is probably a healthy barometer to judge Arsenal's success next season. Looking at the players that they've brought in, looking at the players who are developing in the ranks, remains to be seen who else they'll bring in. I think they still need an attacking midfielder. That should be the player that they focus the rest of their budget on.
Who do you think they would sign?
Overall, what?
Who do you think they would sign as an attacking midfielder? Awar, maybe?
I honestly have no idea. It depends on like who they sell. I know there are links of Hector Bellerin possibly joining PSG, which I think might be a good deal. But yeah, I'm not sure who they would sign. Houssem Aouar would probably make sense. I mean, in terms of quality, you can't find many better U21 players than him. So I think that he would be an excellent signing. I haven't seen any links to Aouar, or I mean, actually, I think I saw a David Ornstein post article about him yesterday. But aside from Aouar, I don't think I've seen any other links to it.
Yeah. Maybe they can get someone like James Maddison. What do you think?
Midfielders, but I think that would probably be the crowd chance of that happening. Madison just renewed his contract, so I think for 2024. So I happen, and given the fact that Leicester really only sell one top player every summer and hang on to the rest, pretty much as a standard rule, I definitely don't see Chilwell last week. So I think that any in a transfer rumor is just leading you on. I don't think there's any chance of that happening.
What do you think about the Ozil situation, since we're talking about attacking midfielders?
I mean, in hindsight, it was a very bad decision to give him all that money, especially when there really wasn't any leverage on his part. I honestly don't think there's maybe like 1 or 2 teams that were in for him on, when they gave him that contract, which was incredibly short-sighted. Should have probably either sold him or just let him leave on a free, because giving him that kind of money was just completely irresponsible. And yeah, I mean, you can't really justify it. I suppose that there's, I don't think there's any justification for giving him that kind of money, but he's got 1 year left on us. Find a way to buy him out, or you just don't think, he's just such a liability in the squad. He really offers so little nowadays, and just takes up so much money, which could be used for other things. Really, just an absolutely terrible decision.
It's kind of weird that he wants to stay there. Yeah, despite not playing. How often do you see that?
He wants.
Yeah.
He wants to make money. I think you see it pretty often. I mean, you're seeing that with Kepa Arrizabalaga at Chelsea right now. He knows that he probably won't be starting any games next season, but he's still gonna, take in a paycheck because no other team is gonna pay close to what Arsenal paid for him, or what Chelsea is paying him. So, I mean, you definitely do see it irresponsible from Chelsea to give him that kind of money. It was just, I just don't think. Sorry, from Arsenal to give Ozil that kind of money. But yeah, so they're gonna have to find a way to be surprised if he is still an Arsenal player at the end of the window, just because he's eating up so much, just a massive chunk of money. So I think at this point, you might just be better off just buying him out of his contract, or just letting him join some other team for free. It just doesn't really make any sense to keep him in the squad when he just offers so little nowadays.
Yeah. On the my last question for you will be, since we've talked about Arsenal and discussed what a realistic target for them might be, can you give me your prediction for the top 4 and probably top 6 finishers of the league for next season?
I mean, it's tough to say because I just don't know who is going to come, who isn't. I think if Manchester City get Lionel Messi, they're definitely my favorites to win the title. I think right now I'm not sure I'd put City, just because they've made some interesting signings with Ferran Torres and Nathan Ake, but I don't think that's really good enough to make up the space with Liverpool.
I think they're about to sign Khalid Koulibaly, right? France Football was reporting that he was close to
I haven't seen anything. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I think that would be definitely a great signing, though. If they get Messi and Koulibaly, I would see them. I definitely think that anything less than a title is an ultimate failure for Pep. But and I'm not sure what's going on with Liverpool, with whether they'll sell. It looks like they'll sell Wijnaldum to Barcelona right now. As well as bring in Thiago, which would be an interesting move. I think that it would definitely give Liverpool something different. But at the same time, it would take away a player who's been extremely valuable for Liverpool to play a certain style of play. So interesting to see how that turns out. We haven't really seen, apart from Chelsea, obviously, who made just so many incredible signings in just one summer. Haven't seen that many moves in the Premier League. I think Fulham is making a few interesting moves, as well as Leeds. So we've seen a few, but not definitely a lot of teams who are trying to tighten the purse strings. Everton, I think, are actually making some interesting moves with Alan, James Rodriguez, Abdoulaye Doucouré, and it looks like they're going to get Sergio Romero on loan from Manchester United. So, but like as I said, I mean, there's still about a month left before the transfer window closes, so it's just very hard to make any sort of prediction in terms of how the top 6 finishes, just because you get the feeling that there will be plenty more transfers. In fact, usually there tends to be more transfers in the final 2 or 3 weeks of a window than the opening 2 or 3 months or so. So I mean, I'm just waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation because of the COVID financial impact. I think that's mostly it. Thank you very much, Zach, for
definitely. I mean,
yeah.
But of course.
So Yeah, thank you for
Pleasure.
taking the time to talk with me. And everyone, you can follow Zach on Twitter, and he does these amazing threads of young talent. I don't even know where you get the time to watch all those amazing players. So I remember you told us about Ermon Tapsoba way before he joined Leverkusen, and what a sensational signing he has been. And yeah, I look forward to reading your articles and threads on Twitter. And everyone, go follow him, and don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.